This movie is on iterative calculations regarding circular references. So that's where we'll start. We'll define a circular reference. We'll see where we can adjust the iterative calculation functionality to have Excel calculate a certain number of times, or to have Excel calculate up until the change between one iteration and the next reaches a threshold that we determine. And then we'll take a look at how Excel actually goes about calculating the cells. So I have a worksheet set up here where we have some fictitious sales and cost of sales information. And I've got a commission program where I'm going to pay somebody a commission based on 10% of the profit. And the problem with the calculation is that the profit is net of the commission expense itself. So I'm going to first input the profit formula, which is going to be the profit before commission minus the commission expense. So that'll equal the profit. And of course, it's the same as the profit before commission because there isn't any commission expense calculated yet. And the commission is going to be 10%, arrowing down twice, times 0.1 of the profit. Control Enter. And I get a circular reference warning from Excel. And the reason I'm getting this, I'm going to move it out of the way, is that the commission expense is dependent upon the profit in C9, and the profit in C9 is dependent upon the commission expense. So one cell, C7, is referencing the other cell, C9, which in turn references back to C7, and I've got what is defined as a circular reference. I'm going to left-click OK to close that error message, and Excel shows me by pointing to the two cells where the circular reference problem is. The way we can handle this, because this is a valid formula, we can do some algebra, or we can have Excel figure this out for us by pressing Alt-F-T to get the Excel options dialog box, left-click Formulas, and left-click Enable Iterative Calculation. When we turn on the iterative calculation, we enable the iterative calculation functionality, we can control the iterative process in one of two ways. We can determine how many times we want Excel to actually do the calculation. In the maximum iterations field, that's currently by default set at 100, we can set that number to be anywhere from 1 to 32,767 of all numbers, or we can establish a threshold with the maximum change field that we want Excel to stop performing iterative calculations at, and it will stop when the change from one iteration to the next is smaller than the number that we put into this field. I'm going to leave both of those settings at the default and left-click OK, and we got a result. So the commission is supposed to be 10% of the profit. We can tell visually that the commission actually is 10% of the profit. If we move the decimal place to the left in the profit that's in C9, we have 227.27, which is what the commission is. For the next part of this, I'm going to go back to the Excel options dialog box, Alt-F-T, in the formulas group, and deselect and turn off the iterative calculations. Left-click OK. I get my warning message again, and I get Excel calling out the fact that I have a circular reference. And I'm going to set up another circular reference to demonstrate how Excel goes about calculating the cells. I'm going to make cell E15 a function of itself to a certain extent. E15 equals F15 plus E15. So I'm going to have the cell be a function of itself. Control Enter, and I'm going to arrow over once and put a value in F15 and Enter. And then I'm going to make E14 a function of E15, Enter. Control C, arrow up once, and then hold the Shift key down and arrow up to E3 and Enter. So now I've got each cell being a function of, I'm hitting F2 every time in the down arrow, a function of the cell below it. Now we're going to go back to the Excel options dialog box, left-click Formulas, enable iterations, and this time I want to set the maximum number of iterations to 1. Left-click OK. And now E15, the cell at the bottom, has a value. And every time you manually recalc the worksheet or the workbook by pressing either Shift F9 to do the worksheet or F9 to do the workbook, Excel will recalculate one iteration. So I'm going to press Shift F9, and now E15 added the value that was in E15 before to the value in F15, and E14 picked up the value that was in E15, which was 5, and every subsequent time we do that, we're going to see the cell above pick up the value from the cell below, and E15 will get 5 added to it every time we hit Shift F9, Shift F9. So what am I trying to show you here? This is actually a valuable strategy that can be applied when you're trying to capture some results of some simulations to be used further in the analysis. We're going to apply this technique in 2 subsequent movies, one on The Solver and another on GoalSeek. So that was a movie on the iterative calculation settings for Excel. We set up a circular reference by making a cell dependent on another cell, which was in turn dependent on the original cell. Excel won't be able to calculate those cells. In fact, you'll get an error message until you turn on the iterative calculation functionality. When we do that, we can control the number of iterations by setting a maximum number up or setting up a threshold for which when Excel reaches that number that's the difference between the prior iteration and the current iteration, it will stop. We also use the iterative calculation functionality set to 1 iteration to demonstrate how Excel calculates the cells from the bottom up.